Good morning and welcome to 30 Minute Reviews. I am Adam. It's a little late. I said I was going to do this on Wednesday. It's now Thursday. I got a stomach virus. That was not fun. I'm still getting over it, but it is what it is. Um, Still barely able to eat, but it is Oscar season. We now have our Oscar nominees for this year. We know who's been nominated in what category. So I have a nice paper here that we're going to work off of as we go through our Oscar nominees, and we're going to work through this is last year's, as we work through our predictions for this year. So let's just start at the top and work our way down the line um, for who is in what category and who is likely to win. So first off, we have Best Picture. The nominees for Best Picture are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun: Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. Now, I need to move my microphone so it's just a little out of the way so I can actually read the article in its entirety, or my paper in its entirety. Now, I think that hands down, if you listen to the Beware of Spoilers that Peter and I did of our year in review, you know my thoughts are with Everything Everywhere All at Once is the best movie of the year. I don't think it'll win. I don't think Top Gun Maverick is going to win either. I think that it's going to go to The Fabelmans. And I think The Fabelmans checks all the boxes that you're looking for a movie to win Best Picture. It's semi-autobiographical about one of the greatest directors to ever work in the field. It's a period piece. It's got the family drama. It's got, about someone discovering their love for movies and for filmmaking. It has some comedic moments. It all kind of, it works just enough to get it through. And I think that's kind of where this movie's going to end up staying. I think this movie could win Best Picture, but I think it'll also be a movie that it could be a movie that wins Best Picture and then doesn't win anything else. That said, I do still think Everything Everywhere All at Once is the strongest movie of the year, even if it doesn't win this. And then we start getting into the not technical categories, but the other categories. Next category, Best Director. We have Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Shina, the Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Ostlund for Triangle of Sadness. Now, I have not seen Triangle of Sadness, but of the movies here that I have seen, which are the other four, I would say this is almost certainly going to the Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once, just because of how much the movie gets to do over the course of its runtime. I have not. I like the Banshees of Inisherin. I don't think there's too much there that really does anything above and beyond. And I think the same really goes for the Fabelmans, and Tar. I think has the strongest case out of any of them to make a run, if any of them are. Now, in terms of lead actor, we have Austin Butler for playing Elvis in Elvis. We have Colin Farrell in The Banshees of Inisherin. We have Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, and Bill Nighy for Living. Now, this one was another one where I was conflicted because I really liked Aftersun. And I think Aftersun, I think if there's a movie that could have unseated the Daniels for Best Director, it probably would have been Aftersun. What was the director's name for that? Hold on one second. Charlotte Wells, that was her name. I think she had a strong chance of. I think if anyone did, it would have been her because of how well that movie distilled the emotion of nostalgia down into a movie form. I think that she definitely deserved that recognition, if not having the chance to make that strong run at it. It kind of reminds me of like her not getting nominated is probably close to Greta Gerwig not getting nominated for Little Women. Um, and I can't speak to Women Talking that strongly because I haven't seen it yet, but I've only heard good things. That said, for best lead actor, I think he's going to go to Brendan Fraser. I think that The Whale is 100% contingent on his performance to a degree where the other movies in this, you know, category are not. I think Paul Mescal's performance also is kind of important to Aftersun. Don't get me wrong, and I think that not Brendan Fraser, that Colin Farrell's performance is also important. And I think that Colin Farrell, if there's a category for Best Actor of the Year, Colin Farrell definitely deserves that because he does have the best aggregate performance of the year between the Batman and between After Yang. He definitely deserves that recognition. I just don't think he's gonna get it here because I think that when you watch a movie like The Banshees of Inisherin, all four of the lead cast members in this movie do such a great job. Even Barry Keoghan, who I don't particularly care for, um, all of them do such a great job that I don't think that any one of them stands up and above the rest. Meanwhile, I think Brendan Fraser, if his performance isn't nailed, that movie doesn't work. And by and large, a lot of the movie doesn't work. But it still does to the degree that it does is entirely because of Brendan Fraser's performance. Um, the next category is Best Lead Actress. We have Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fablemans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, I hadn't heard of To Leslie until I saw these nominations, so kudos to her for getting nominated. I mean, that's great work to get nominated for that. I'm not entirely sure how Ana de Armas got nominated for Blonde. It's not the first time this has happened where someone gets nominated for a Razzie and an Academy Award in the same year. Um, but it just goes to show how the Razzies are ridiculous, and in some cases, maybe the Academy Awards are ridiculous too. Because from what I've heard about Blonde, I didn't watch it, but it seems a little fucked up in more ways than one. I'm not entirely sure why that's there. I don't think Michelle Williams' performance. I think this is the only one I fundamentally disagree with. I don't think Michelle Williams' performance in The Fablemans is particularly great. It's kind of like the I'm going to scream and cry to make it look like I'm doing more acting than I am. I wasn't particularly fond of how it came off there. To the point where when I did my review, I think I even said, I'm like, have we been tricked into thinking she's a great actress all this time? Um, but I'm not entirely sure why she's there. And I think Michelle Yeoh is going to run away with this one, though, because over the course of that movie, she plays so many different variations on her character that it gives her such great room to illustrate her acting ability over the course of the movie. It is something really special, that movie. Which brings us to Best Supporting Actor, where the nominees are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fablemans, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, and Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, like I said, I think that to start out, we have two people being nominated for the same movie, and I've said this before in the past. Whenever that happens, you end up splitting the vote. It's very rare that you get two nominees from the same movie, and one of them wins and the other doesn't. I think usually what ends up happening is the two will end up both getting votes, split, and then someone else will win. I think that's going to be the problem for Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan. Um, I did really enjoy Judd Hirsch in The Fablemans. His small scene is probably the highlight of that movie, in the same way that Bradley Cooper's small scene in Licorice Pizza is the highlight of that movie. That said, Ke Huy Quan is definitely going to end up taking this home. I don't think it has anything to do with the Golden Globe win or the Screen Actors Guild win, but it's just he comes into this movie and delivers such a great heartfelt performance after not acting in anything for 20 years. It's such a great it's a great story for him to come back and win. Next up, we have Best Supporting Actress. The nominees are Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow for The Whale, Kerry Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I hope I pronounced her name right. Um, I think that the issue is, again, Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu are going to split the vote for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think both of them do a great job, but both of them do a great job for similar reasons. so I think you're going to end up splitting that. I think Kerry Condon is great in The Banshees of Inisherin, but I don't think she does enough to set herself apart from other competition, and I don't think she does enough to make her to stand up and above the rest. And I think the same goes for Hong Chau. I think that she is good in that movie, um, but I think she's good in that movie compared to the rest of the supporting cast. She's better than the wife. She's better than Sadie Sink, which is not to say that she's particularly bad, but it's just I buy her character more because it's written better. And it goes the same for the kid from Iron Man 3 who's also in that movie, whose name I'm forgetting. I think Angela Bassett's gonna end up winning this. I think Angela Bassett had a great amount of room to play with, and I think that a good amount of that comes from the fact that this movie had to reckon with, you know, with what was happening in the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also the fact that it had to reckon with um, the real life death of Chadwick Boseman. And I think that she took the most of that opportunity and did a great job with what she was given. Um, this one may get me a little flack. Best Adapted Screenplay, the nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, which, full disclosure, I haven't given it enough praise yet, that movie. I love that book. Um, that's all. All Quiet on the Western Front, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, Living, Top Gun Maverick, and Women Talking. I think that this one is going to be won by Top Gun Maverick, and let me explain why. Top Gun, the original one from 1988, I believe, is not a good movie. I don't care how much you love that movie. I don't care how much you've watched that movie. I don't care how much that movie defined who you are. It is the 80s version of 300. It is a military, glorification movie. It is, hyper masculine. And it's just not a great movie all around. It defined what masculinity was for a little bit, and it's just not a great movie all around. And a lot of people really love that movie. It's a propaganda tool, and and it worked for what it had to do. The issue with Top Gun is that the rest of the movie around it is not great. Around all of that, it has some great visuals that do age pretty well, but beyond that, the movie itself is not fantastic. The problem with all of this is Top Gun Maverick is a lot better than it had any right to be. I remember seeing the trailer in the theater for the first time and being like, "Oh shit, that looks like it could be like." At first I was like, "Oh, they're making another Top Gun movie. All right, I guess why not?" And then it was, "Oh, that looks kind of cool. Like the acting looks pretty good." And then when I saw it, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that was really good. I mean, granted, the ending was a little I wasn't thrilled about. Like he should have died, but it's not a terrible movie. And I was like, holy shit, good for them. They pulled it off. And I think that that's where this is going to come in. I think that we're going to end up with a situation where, like, Glass Onion is taking something great and keeping it great. Living is taking a Kurosawa movie and keeping it great. All Quiet on the Western Front is taking a classic piece of literature and keeping it great. Women Talking is taking a story that was well executed in its initial form and keeping it great. I think Top Gun Maverick is going to win this because it's taking something that was kind of okay and just okay and making it great. And I think that's where this is going to come in and win. Now, for Best Original Screenplay, the nominees are The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness. Now, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once has to win this because of how many different movies fit into this one movie and do all of that while having these great comedic moments and these ridiculous comedic moments while still having these emotional heartfelt moments that still feel earned and just so beautifully done. Um yeah, I think I've blown Everything Everywhere All at Once enough for this. Now, the next category, Best Cinematography. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, Elvis, Empire of Light, and Tar. I think that Tar is going to win this because when I talked about Tar in my review, I said that one of the things I really loved, and if you've listened to this podcast, you'll know exactly what it's coming, where this is going. I love a good long shot. I love these long, drawn out, protracted takes where it's just allowed to sit and let the scene play out, even as the action goes. I loved Birdman. I loved 1917. I loved um, the beginning of The Revenant where they had that giant fight scene in just one long take. I love when they do that, and Tar has a bunch of those because it allows you to build the tension up because you don't get that chance to cut away to take a breath and move on. It's just you have these long takes and you're just letting him play out, and Tar has those. The issue is it is a combination of editing and cinematography, but it almost always gets attributed to cinematography. So looking back on movies that have these, they almost always win the cinematography awards. Very rarely do they win the what's it called awards. Very rarely do they win the editing awards. I think this is going to win cinematography though. So I think Tar for cinematography. Now for best documentary feature, we have All That Breathes, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Fire of Love, A House Made of Splinters, and Navalny. Um, the only one, like, I saw Fire of Love. I didn't see the majority of the rest, but I did read synopsis for the rest of them, and I did read a few things. From what I've read, I think All the Beauty and the Bloodshed is likely going to be the one that takes it home, um, because of how because of it tells the story of the opioid epidemic and trying to take on Purdue Pharmaceuticals and hold them accountable for their role, and all that kind of stuff. I think that that's kind of the what's it called? That's kind of where that is. I think Navalny has a chance because it is the story of dissent in Russia, and we are still dealing with this ongoing conflict with Ukraine. Um, I think that I think that All the Beauty and the Bloodshed does take it home. That said, Fire of Love was pretty good. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend you watch it. Best film editing, we have The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Top Gun Maverick. And again, like I said before, we have this issue where long takes are considered a cinematography achievement, not an editing achievement. So it's going to end up going down to something that's not Tar likely. And I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to be the one that takes it because of how everything kind of fits together very well. And it cuts between these ridiculous scenes and these emotional scenes, and it doesn't feel weird that it's doing that. Like I'm thinking specifically of the Raccacoonie thing toward the end of the movie, where it's like that whole ridiculous thing, like, and they're cutting between that and then back at the laundromat where Jamie Lee Curtis is talking to Michelle Yeoh as her marriage is falling apart, and then back at the Everything Bagel. Like all of these things are so just ridiculous and everything, and they all just cut back and forth, and it works so well regardless. So I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is gonna take that home. Best international feature. This shouldn't come as a shock. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Argentina 1985, Close, EO, and The Quiet Girl. General rule of thumb: if a movie is nominated for Best International Feature and then is also nominated for Best Picture, it's probably going to win Best International Feature as well. Ergo, All Quiet on the Western Front's going to take that home. Now, Best Original Song. We have Applause from Tell It Like a Woman. We have Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick. We have Lift Me Up from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We have, I don't know how to pronounce this, Natu Natu from RRR. And we have This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think Natu Natu, which is I think how you pronounce that, from RRR is going to win. I read a considerable amount of griping that RRR did not get nominated for Best International Feature or for anything else, and it did make a lot of people's like top 10 lists at the end of last year. Um, I'm surprised it didn't get any nominations in any category but this, but I think it's going to end up taking home Best Original Song because that's the only place it can get voted for. So I think it'll have that. Best Production Design. I think we've evolved as a people since the original Avatar. So the nominees for Best Production Design are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, Babylon, Elvis, and The Fabelmans. Number one, I don't like giving this award to someone that's just recreating the past, which for me eliminates 4 of the 5. Because look, here's the thing: we have pictures of what it looked like. We know what this looked like. We're recreating things that actually existed, especially when we get to things like the Fablemans and Elvis, which are more recent past comparatively than Babylon and All Quiet on the Western Front. But we have a we have records of what these things look like. You're just recreating it. I'm not a fan of that. I think you have more with Avatar: The Way of Water, and I think on top of that too, in 2009 when the original Avatar came out, it did not win this category, but at the same time, production design for digital effects was not considered production design. And I think had that movie come out now, it would have won that. And I think it wins it here too. Best visual effects, let's just, we'll go through them, but I think we all know it's going to be Avatar. All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and Top Gun: Maverick. Again, Avatar: Way of Water is going to run away with this. This is the clearest example of who's going to win going into it. I'm surprised that Wakanda Forever got nominated. I think Wakanda Forever wasn't Marvel's best visual effects of the year. I think that goes to Multiverse of Madness. I'm surprised that didn't get nominated. Um, but whatever, it's not going to win either way. That's hands down going to Avatar. Now, best animated feature, we have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Sea Beast, and Turning Red. This is a tough category. This is a very tough category. Um, I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio will take it home now. I it does run the risk of splitting with Marcel the Shell with Shoes On because both of them have that what's it called? Have that same kind of feeling of they're both stop motion. I just think that because Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is using real world environments, it may harm it a little bit. Plus, I think after last year, I would like to see people stand with animation and do more of a, well, it's not specifically for kids kind of angle. Because, like, that's the thing where it's like last year was when they to announce that they had 3 of the Disney princesses go up, or 3 of the actresses who play Disney princesses go up, and be like, we were the, animation was what kept the kids entertained all through the pandemic, ha 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 ha. And then, like, Lord and Miller rightfully went out and did an op-ed, like, look, it's not just a kid's medium. I would like to see some solidarity with with people who make animation. I would like to see some of that come through. Um, that said, I think recency bias could give it to Puss in Boots, and I do think that Turning Red could make a strong case. But that said, I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio wins. Also, it has some of the best looking stop motion animation ever made. I think it deserves it for that alone. Um, moving on to best costume design, which is another one where I'm baffled by one of the nominees. The nominees are Babylon, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Again, not a huge fan of nominees in these categories where they're just recreating costumes that we've seen a million times before. Namely, I think people are very familiar with the majority of Elvis's costumes. I don't think we need to, like, I don't think that needs praise because, like, look, especially for Elvis. You can go to Graceland and you can see the originals. Recreating them is not particularly difficult. It's you have the original there, just recreate it. The others, again, Babylon. I don't think there's anything particularly special in terms of costuming in that movie, and the same goes for Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I don't think there's anything particularly special there. I think that the fact that Wakanda Forever got nominated is baffling to me because that movie had some of the most ridiculous costumes I've ever seen. The Midnight Angels costumes were terrible, and that model of Ironheart was not great either. Um, Namor was good, and I liked how they did M'Baku, and I liked uh, what's it called, and I liked Shuri's Black Panther costume. I just don't think that it deserves a nomination because it has a lot to get past in terms of that other stuff. So I think that this is going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once. Um, So next up, we have Best Makeup and Hairstyling. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, The Batman, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Elvis, and The Whale. I think The Whale wins this because I think that the physical transformation that they had to put Brendan Fraser through with prostheses and making him look like he's 600 pounds, that's an achievement, and they did a great job with it. And as much as his performance it dictates how the movie works, his physical appearance, if it doesn't look real, it doesn't work. It just looks silly then, and it worked very well. Um, Best original score, we have All Quiet on the Western Front, Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Fablemans. I'm surprised here that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever did not get nominated. If I'm being very honest, I think Ludwig Göransson's score is fantastic, and I'm surprised it didn't get nominated here. Um, However, I think the Banshees of Inisherin will take this one home because that movie is such a weird movie. I think it does a great job of using the score to what's it called to uh, to build tension as the movie goes along. And finally, we have Best Sound. The nominees for Best Sound are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Elvis, and Top Gun Maverick. I think Top Gun Maverick wins it because the movie has amazing sound mixing to the point where all of the action sequences with the fighters and everything, they all have a sense of scale and scope because of how well the action is done, because of how well the sound is mixed. That said, it should still be two separate categories: sound mixing and sound editing, but they're not going to do that. There are three more categories. However, I have not seen any of them, so I can't weigh in on which I think is going to win in any of these categories. The nominees for Best Animated Short are The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, The Flying Sailor, Ice Merchants, My Year of Dicks, which I kind of hope wins because I want to hear them announce that, and An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake and I Think I Believe It. The nominees for Best Documentary Short are The Elephant Whisperers, Haul Out, How Do You Measure a Year, The Martha Mitchell Effect, and Stranger at the Gate. And the nominees for Best Live Action Short are An Irish Goodbye, Evalu, Le Pupille, French and whatever, um, Night Ride, and The Red Suitcase. Those are the nominees for the shorts categories. So I do not have a take on any of them. I have not seen them. But to go through one last time as to who wins what categories. Let me just scroll up to the top. Okay, so we have Best Picture is going to be The Fablemans. Best Director, The Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best Lead Actor, Brendan Fraser for The Whale. Best Lead Actress, Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best Supporting Actor, Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best Supporting Actress, Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Best Adapted Screenplay, Top Gun Maverick. Best Original Screenplay, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best Cinematography, Tar. Best Documentary Feature, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. Best Film Editing, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best International Feature, All Quiet on the Western Front. Best Original Song, Naatu Naatu from RRR. Best Production Design, Avatar: The Way of Water. Best Visual Effects, Avatar: The Way of Water. Best Animated Feature, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Best Costume Design, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best Makeup and Hairstyling, The Whale. Best Original Score, The Banshees of Inisherin. Best Sound, Top Gun Maverick. And that is all of them. So, we'll wrap up there for today. And those are Oscar picks going into Oscar season. And with that, have a great rest of your week.